the chipping away of your autonomy. It doesn't happen all at once. And I think that's why it takes so long to realize that you're in an abusive relationship. The individual instance isn't enough for you to be like, oh, this is abuse. It's the cumulative effect.
I often likened it to living in carbon monoxide. You don't know you're being poisoned as it slowly poisons you to death. Is this love, or is it actually a form of coercive control? To answer that question, Eleni Sagredos joins me to talk about how to tell when we're in an abusive dynamic. I'm so excited to be joined by Eleni Sagredos. This is the second time you've been with me, and I know that the first time went really over very big because there's a lot we don't understand about coercive control or covert abuse. And I was thinking back to my own story, and I I knew things weren't healthy, but I wouldn't have called it abusive.
Yeah.
And it's only in hindsight as I look back that I realized how much of my day-to-day life had been given over to his control. I mean, even down to how we spent money. You know, he made a suggestion of how we do that, or he was quietly affecting my diet, like saying, oh, you need to try this, or isn't this such great food, or we need to eat here, or even the timing of when we ate. I mean, so it's subtle. So let's talk about why we get into the relationships and we don't realize that we're losing increasing amount of control.
Yeah. And the way you said it was, it's not so overt. It's like, we need to eat here. You need to wear this, right? Because anyone would be like, no, like, why would I do what you say? But it's like suggestions. It's how they start. Like, I would prefer we eat here. Why don't we let's not do it this way. Let's do it this way instead. And I think the way they manipulate you into relinquishing more and more of your autonomy over time.
Yeah, I know I didn't realize it. I'm sure you didn't either. I mean, I think back to even in the dating stage, he told me he just didn't like to see women in animal print.
Yep.
And I thought, I don't think that's very cool either necessarily. Yep. By the way, I now wear a lot of animal print just to sort of my big F you to him. But,
no, same.
But I didn't know at the time he was gently guiding me into a certain way, certain lifestyle, certain habits, certain, way of living.
Yeah.
Did you realize it when it was happening to you?
No, even in the love bombing stage, I didn't get it because it was preference. I prefer women that wear less makeup. I prefer women that don't, I had hair extensions. Like, I don't like women that wear hair extensions. Like, meanwhile, it's very interesting because like, that's what you love. And they knew that about you, right? Going into the relationship, they knew that about you. So, it's no secret that I wear hair extensions and like I love makeup. So when they do this, you need to ask yourself, well, then why would they choose a woman that does that then? If it's not to control them and change them.
Yeah, I do. I agree. They often identify your biggest areas of vulnerability or biggest areas of that mean a lot to you. I mean, that would be sacrificial. Mm-hmm. But I also recognize that they also are just making suggestions to sort of tailor life the way they want it. So mine wasn't like, I never wore animal prints, so it wasn't an issue. I mean, why would I care? But it did make me then, whenever I looked at an outfit, to avoid the animal print outfits,
Yeah. It's that entitlement piece. It's like, I feel entitled because I like this thing, so I need to mold someone else to make sure that that's how they behave.
Yeah. In fact, mine even had non-negotiables in his dating profile.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. And at the time, it was so common. I mean, that's the sad part. It was such a common experience.
Yeah.
I thought, well, at least he's saying he lives a fit life and he's looking for a woman who's equally into a fit life, which we all know is code of I want someone slender.
Yeah.
So I thought okay, so he doesn't want any piercings. He's not into tattoos. I don't really have any of those either. And he's looking for somebody who's religious. Well, I am too. You see what I'm saying? To me, it was like, oh, okay, we align. That's how I took it. We align. Yeah. I didn't think of it from the angle of entitlement, that this is a person who sees themselves as superior and privileged and is inviting you into their privileged life.
Yeah. Yeah. How would you know, though? Because all the dating experts are like, tell them what you want. So
Exactly. Yeah. I know. So how did you recognize it? What was the sort of the wake up for you on this?
The wake up, I think, is when I was talking to my therapist and I was like, I don't know I couldn't pin it at the time. I was just like, I don't know what's wrong, but he makes me feel like I'm dirty and I don't clean enough and that I don't do this enough. And I feel like I can't, she noticed also that I took out my extensions and I stopped, wearing makeup and so stuff like that. And I think I think she was the first one to clock it. Honestly, I can't say that I can't give myself the credit here at all. So I think she asked some very interesting questions that made me think and be like, oh, maybe what's happening isn't normal. And then I remember her also saying like, Eleni, like, I've seen the inside of your apartment. It's clean. Like, you've always been a pretty clean person. So this is weird that it's becoming an issue in your relationship. I'm like, yeah, that is weird. So yeah, I think it was really just getting that outside perspective, because sometimes when you're in it, you don't see it yourself at all. So I think talking to people is really beneficial.
I never saw it until I was out and done. Nobody ever called it, actually, for me. And it got so subtle that it was around how even I hung clothes in the closet.
Yeah.
He commented he wanted clothes hung in a certain direction. And how he did it was he used a neg, which is really kind of interesting. It's a kind of back-assword way to do this. Is to say, I really am very particular about how my clothes are washed, so I usually wash my own clothes. And I'm thinking, I've been washing clothes for a family for 30-some years. Why would you suddenly say I'm not capable of... Now, first of all, do I want to do laundry? No, it's not my top chore that I enjoy to do in life. But the fact that he was threatening to take it away made me feel like I had to prove that I could do it.
Yeah.
Next thing I know, I like them hung by color and hung in a certain direction. I'm thinking, okay, well, yeah, that's kind of logical and makes sense. Next thing I know, I'm reorganizing my side of the closet. I'm just thinking, isn't it amazing how it's like it picks at you, just picks and picks and picks at you.
Exactly. It's the chipping away of your autonomy. Mm-hmm. It doesn't happen all at once. And I think that's why victims, it takes so long to realize that you're in an abusive relationship, but also to validate to yourself that you are in one, even after the fact. And I think it's also part of the reason why victims after the fact, we watch the videos on TikTok about abuse to validate ourselves. We read the books. We try to understand their psychology and what happened and what are abuse tactics, because you're being gaslit in the relationship, but also so many instances are so small that the individual instance isn't enough for you to be like, oh, this is abuse. It's the cumulative effect.
Yes. And I think that's what's so powerful. I'm thinking of, for example, the documentary of Gabby Petito. Am I saying her last name correctly? That you could see it was incremental pressure to where at the end she's cracking, but she's also confused. She at times generally thinks she is the problem. You can tell.
Yeah.
Even police think she's the problem because he's so good at flipping the script on her. I know that here's the interesting part. So I had already started writing, and I was, in fact, the second year that I knew him, I was named as Cora's top writer back when they had that program.
Wow.
Because I had been consistently writing every day for years.
Yeah.
And he would start to kind of pick at my writing and say, I'm shocked that you have any friends by the way you communicate, or why did you say it this way? And I started to shut down to where I couldn't even... The writing became difficult because I became so self-conscious about my writing. But it was amazing. It's like you said, it's this incremental chipping away, wearing away, to where it creates this identity confusion about who you are, what you're about, or even the loss of control over your life. To me, I often likened it to living in carbon monoxide. You don't know you're being poisoned as it slowly poisons you to death, but it's this cumulative effect that you're succumbing to.
Yeah. Absolutely. And the way you said it's chipping away at your identity also, because that is so true. You were sure. You're like, hey, I'm good at writing. I write. So what I'm about, like, this is what I love doing. I'm good at the laundry. This is, I've done it for 30 years. Oh my God.
Right.
And so the fact that they were able to even chip that piece away, make you doubt these like integral part of yourself that you've known all your life. Isn't that crazy? And then we wonder why victims stay so long.
Yeah, I hadn't even really put it. You're right. It created self-doubt around things that I hadn't had any doubt about.
Yeah.
And why would I even allow doubt in? I mean, it's
exactly. Yeah. No. I mean, it's because I think my theory is that a lot of victims that do like have a hard time understanding they're in abuse, and most people don't, but especially like if you're being chipped away slowly, is because we are reflective and we try to be open to other people's advice about us. So you're like self-reflective, you want to be better, you want to, be better also for yourself, but also the people around you. So if someone is coming to you and being like, especially your partner that you care about and you love, that is like, hey, like, man, this place is just so dirty. And like, you just seem, you can't even do dishes right. You can't do laundry right. And you're like, oh man, I don't want to be a dirty person. I'm sorry if this is stressing you out. I'll be better. So it's, yeah, you're going to be self-reflective because you love this person, but also you are a self-reflective person.
That's right. And you're empathic.
And
you care about how you impact. Yeah, you care about how you impact other people. And interesting, as you were saying that, Eleni, that I was thinking about how much advice did he take from other people?
Oh, yeah.
They don't, do they?
They don't.
No. So, in fact, he was to the point where I would look at him and think, I think you're a little mildly delusional on that characteristic. You're not all that great. He would say he's that good of a manager and he knew some system, this organizational system that well. And I'm thinking, well, you barely have English as a first language. You're not fluent in English. I mean, English is not your first language. And you think you could educate better on this system that's, first of all, written in English and then going to be taught in English. And you think you want to go be a part of it and help educate other companies on this point? Come on. Especially now that you tell me that you actually paid someone to write your papers in college at a non-accredited college program. There's so many like extreme problems with this picture, and yet his belief in himself was assured. Was confident.
Yeah. And that's where I'm like, narcissist or psychopath, because they are the ones that are like, and me too. I'm just like, was it a narcissist or a psych? Not sure. But,
no. I got to meet Dr. Ramani. She looked at me and said, Kerry, he's a psychopath. Come on. He's a psychopath.
Yeah.
Yes, Dr. Ramani. He's
You're right. Yes.
You're right. I give it to you. Okay.
Yeah. When she says,
she only heard like 1 minute of the story. Like, he's a psychopath. Yeah. What are we talking about?
Yeah. I'm generally starting to say dark triad or tetra now, because they're usually a little bit of everything. I'm like, I can't pinpoint it anymore. It's a little bit of everything. Like a little bit of sadism, a little bit of psychopathy. We're not sure.
Oh yeah.
Lots of misogyny.
Let's all throw it into the dish and stir it around. No, mine was definitely a dark triad personality.
Yeah.
Definitely. For sure. Yeah, it's interesting because we don't even recognize that piece, that their self-esteem is pretty brittle, it's almost reflective. Everything bounces off. You're not going to change how they see themselves. They're very, very resistant to that. That's why they don't change. Yep. But yet they're in suggesting and pushing change for us all the time. Yeah. How fast, let's ask, I mean, I know how fast I think it was introduced into my relationship. How fast do you think it gets introduced in most relationships?
You mean the beginning?
The coercive control and the covert abuse.
I hate putting a time frame because it's so different for everybody. For me personally, it was roughly a year, but only after we had moved in together. We had bought a house together. And usually it's those like pivotal moments in the relationship. You get married, you get pregnant, you're trapped in some way, or it's harder for you to leave in some way. So it could be a year. It could be like some of them 3 months. And for that, amazing. 1 month. I love it. I hate it that it happened to you. But when it's just the 1 month and it's very quick and they tell you immediately, I love you on like the second date. And then you get the red flag and you're like, okay. But when it's usually a year.
I didn't see it as a red flag. I thought, oh, he loves. No, actually, I was the one that said, I love you at the second date. Yeah, that's how fast he was. How hard he was working on the love bombing.
They're really good at love bombing, manipulate, make you feel like a soulmate connection, right? But usually it's, when the devaluation starts and the coercive control and the covert abuse is when it's harder for you to leave. And we see this a lot when they get married, when they get pregnant. Sometimes like on the honeymoon, I say it because like I hear the same stories and I experience the same. Yeah. So it's almost textbook.
I would say the coercive control started at when I met.
Oh, because
I would say
love
the
bombing
abuse,
is coercive.
though. Yeah, I would say because he was already saying, here's the box. I'd love you to step into the box, but here's the trap, the box. Yeah. Please step in. but then the abuse though got introduced in the honeymoon.
Yeah.
There was like subtle signs of abusiveness. I mean, he was lying to me. I didn't know I was being gaslit because I didn't know it was a lie.
Yeah.
So I really didn't know. And then I would say there was also criticism couched positively, and then kind of criticism couched not quite so positively. So that definitely was starting to ramp up and occur. But the big shift, the drop for me was on our delayed honeymoon, the big drop. And that was when I confronted him on something. He let me know the very next day that he stonewalled me. He actually dropped me off on our honeymoon at the hotel, said, I'm going to go out and do some things and I'll be back. Bye. I know you don't want to go. Bye. And then left.
Wow.
So, and then I thought, as I fell into the couch, devastated, thinking, we're going to have a connection and a nice evening together. We just had a nice dinner and this came out of nowhere. My thought was, I knew immediately what it was. I'm being punished for the confrontation.
I think I remember that in your book. Love You More, when you said that in the beginning.
Yeah.
When you guys were in the hotel. So and it's so common. It's so common. And it's so sad because like you're like, I found my soulmate. And so you're ready to settle down with a person that you think is perfect for you. And you're so excited. And then that's also why you don't understand that it's abuse, because up until that point, it was a fairy tale almost. That's another thing I hear a lot. It's like a fairy tale romance, like it's swept off your feet type of feeling. And so, when they start introducing things like criticism and devaluation, lying, gaslighting, then you're going to give them benefit of doubt. You're not going to leave right away because you have all of this history with this person.
Right. And everybody has bad days.
And everyone has bad days.
Yeah. So how do you know that it wasn't just a horrible day at work? This person has a pounding headache and they're hungry. How do you know that? You don't know that. Yeah. And they're going to snap. I snap. So why would I not give them the same kind of allowance that I would want people to give me? Yeah. You don't realize that there's that's why we keep saying, look for the pattern. There's a pattern of this. And there's also a pattern of a lack of repair. And a denial of this is an issue.
Exactly.
So to me, those are the key differences. If it was when I snap, I like, oh goodness, I'm just really exhausted. My head's pounding. I'm sorry. I need to just not talk. I'll be in it, then we'll all be safer. Yeah. But they don't. They're like, well, what's your problem? I don't know what the problem is. Or why are you bringing this up now? You're ruining the moment. I mean, they always deflect. Yeah. And it goes back to that empathy piece, right? Because you care how, yes, in the moment, that was bad behavior. And then you care how you affected the people in your life. Like, man, I really handled that bad. I am so sorry. And also you care about maintaining those relationships too. Like, I'm so sorry. Like, I won't do it again. I'll try my best. And it was just a really bad time. I was hungry. I was tired. It was, that kind of stuff. But, and I am sorry that it hurt. Also, like the accountability piece. Like, I am sorry that I acted this way. It was inappropriate. And I'm sorry that I hurt you. First is the stonewalling, the silent treatment, the manipulation, the blame shifting. It's not my fault. It was because of something you did. Or just complete lack of repair. Something that I had experienced was we would get into a fight the day, like maybe sometimes a day or an hour later in the kitchen, nothing happened. Listening to music, being like it never happened. And that I think is also gaslighting because you're over here like, yeah, I'm still upset. My feelings were hurt. And they're like not affected at all. So you think, oh, maybe I'm making a big deal out of nothing. Right. Or for me, it was me crying next to him in bed and him sleeping 10 seconds later.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Like, I'm still devastated and it's already over and done and it doesn't even exist anymore. You're sleeping like a baby. Here's the thing that I know that I'm going to hear is criticism, but especially people who've not experienced this, or maybe even people who maybe are a little more controlling of others and don't see the damage of this potentially. They're going to say, well, doesn't a relationship take sacrifice? Are people, like, for example, if I said to you, Eleni, if you and I were in a relationship and I said to you, your Instagram account with the way that you're interacting with some people just makes me feel insecure. And, that you could say, I'm trying to control you by expressing my insecurity. Oh. Now, that's a common situation, and it happens in both situations. It happens in healthy relationships and it happens in unhealthy relationships. So help me to understand the difference you think when it moves into coercive control versus when is it just a couple working out issues.
Oh God. Yeah. It's so nuanced, right? The way you said
It
that
is.
too, because it could be, what are you doing on the Instagram? Are you flirting with other women? Are you flirting with other
Right.
guys?
Right.
Or are you just, showing pictures of you and your dog and it happens to be in shorts that he thinks are too short,
Right. Right.
So it is so nuanced. I wish I had like a very definitive answer, but I think at the end of the day, if they are dictating things about you that they knew already getting into the relationship with you, that this is how you operate, I don't know. I feel like that is control at a certain point, but I don't think that's a great answer. So I'm going to lean on you on this one, actually.
Well, I'm actually thinking about it. I'm getting to know somebody, and this person told me right at the get-go that he has friendships with women.
Okay.
And that they go out and do things together. They go to the theater, or go to dinner together or something.
Okay.
Now, I already know him well enough to know that I can kind of guess the quality of the relationships if they're friendships.
Yeah, and if
they're probably not going to make me. They're going to like. Oh, I'm glad you're doing that. Those things I wouldn't want to do. Please have fun together, and I'll get to meet this individual, and I will get to know this, and we'll probably become friends of some kind, or at least acquaintances. But as long as the conversation, it would be different if I see them together and I can see there's flirting.
Yeah. See,
then I would
nuance.
say, okay, I'm not really, or this person, that they're hearing things that I'm not hearing, so that I know that they have a more emotional closeness than I would have.
Yeah.
In other words, there's things that I would look for that would be indicators of problems. But what to me is the concerning piece of this that I would say, this is unhealthy, is that the person is acting secret. There's a lot of secrecy around it.
Yeah.
If they're not caring about my experience of it and not able to talk about it and consider it.
Yeah.
If there's a lack of self-awareness of what's happening in that relationship with the other person to see how it might threaten our connection, those are the things that I would see as concerns, maybe red flags. But I don't think the act in itself is necessarily nobody can have friends of the opposite sex. I mean, I just told you before we got online that I'm on a game playing in a tribe of guys, young men, and I would hope that nobody would have a problem with that they would know our conversations about going to battles, and that we're not talking, I don't even know what they look like, and I don't plan to. You see what I'm saying? So,
yeah.
It's not the behavior so much, it's all the incidentals around the behavior to me that make it either healthy or unhealthy. But that's what's so tricky, is that we hear these big things and say, well, I don't want somebody to come in and weigh in on this. And but there's times where I could say, let's take even clothing. There are some outfits that I think, whoa, that would make me feel a little, even if I'm, I'm not gay, but if you were a partner of mine and you're wearing that out on a beach and we're together, that would be a little uncomfortable.
Yeah. And that's where look, even the question that you just posed me, I was like, that's hard.
I know.
Imagine in the relationship and you care about this person.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tricky. And that's why I think coercive control is so difficult to spot. It's because the edge of it, when in a loving relationship, they're very close, but very profoundly different. They feel different. My first relationship with my late husband, he could be controlling about a few things. There wasn't coercive control, though.
Yeah.
He could, like I said, he could be controlling. He'd like to have dinner on when he stepped through the door.
Yes.
Okay. But he wasn't like I don't know. I didn't feel pressured around it, or wasn't weird around it. It was just a preference he had, and I generally understood, and I tried to do that. But what happened with the second person was more of, isn't this food really good? This is the kind of food we should eat. Don't you like this kind of food? And the next thing I know, we're only eating that kind of food. It was just next thing I know, I'm being kind of, or I don't really want a TV in the bedroom. I don't think that we should do that. Next thing I know, there is a TV in the bedroom, and he's watching it till 3 a.m. and I'm trying to sleep beside him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then he's setting the alarm when we don't have to go anywhere by 9. He's setting the alarm for 6.
Yeah.
And then says, oh, I just think it's good we get to start on the day. Like, yeah, but you were up till 3 a.m. and now I couldn't sleep. And now, next thing I know, my sleep is being degraded because he's doing these weird things. Oh, here's a big difference between the two guys. My first husband, who deeply cared about me and knew I needed a lot of sleep, would sneak through the bedroom, like tiptoe through the bedroom so he wouldn't wake me up. He would make such an effort. He'd even take his clothes out of the closet, carefully shut it, go into the bathroom to dress, and then sneak back out so he never woke me. My ex-husband, he would bounce on the bed as he put his shoes on.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think sleep is also it's how they it's so subtle because it is how they get away with it. For me, I hadn't realized that there was a small instance of physical abuse because he did it in his sleep. So I
Oh,
had no idea. They hit you in the sleep. Oh, I'm so sorry. Like and I was like, oh, I mean, I get it. Happens a few more times. You're like, interesting. But it's also something that I've heard they do, especially like covert abusers right away because they don't want they don't want you to tell everyone that they physically slapped you, right? But
right.
also it gives them that out, oh,
Yeah.
I was asleep. But yeah, those little moments where you're like, hey, this is the difference between those two, like the controlling, the switch from I like this meal and this is the meal that we're going to have every day. That can be very subtle. Or, I'm trying to sleep. Well, now you have a TV in your bedroom. Like, what are you going to say to that? Like
Right.
what do you say to that? And what do you say
Right.
to like,
Especially if you get up to try to move, but oh, I don't sleep so well when you're not here.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
It's so tricky, and we don't see the fact that we've become an object. I think that's the critical difference. If you even listen to the story of how the two men got ready in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
one was, I see you, Kerry. You're an
Yeah.
important person. I value your need. You value mine. And the
Mm-hmm.
second one was, I don't.
Yeah.
You're here, and at times I'm going to let you know just how much of an inconvenience, but I'm also going to make sure my life is comfy the way I want it and keep you in line so that I'm not out at risk on this. I mean,
That's
even I'm
so
thinking
good.
of the men of the year trend that's going on TikTok. And I know that this is going to be, this will be old. So people may have to go look for it because it will probably be over by then. But people are shocked to the degree that there's this other side to this individual that is that awful, that
Yeah.
hostile.
Yeah.
And that it's something that nobody ever sees unless you're living with this individual.
Oh, that's such a good point. I think that's
Yeah.
also one, they groom you, but they groom the people around you. They groom their friends, they groom their family. So that individual never shows that abusive part of them to those other peoples. There's stories, of from the man of the year trend of like, I've been friends with this guy for like 5 years and I didn't realize he was abusive. And then I went over to his house one day and like saw him beating his wife and like he's now like in shock that that person was able to hide it from him for so long. And I'm like, did it really take a trend for you to finally believe us? But I guess until they're confronted with this type of personality, then they don't believe it.
Well, yeah, again, I go back to Gabby's story.
Yeah.
He looks so plausible,
Oh
so
yeah.
nice, so ordinary.
Oh yeah. They all do though. I feel like
Yeah, they do. They do. They're the neighbor next door. That's the
yeah.
problem. They really are. And even Ted Bundy. I mean, he
Oh
had
yeah.
a wife who didn't even know,
I
you
know.
know?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. So true.
Yeah. So yeah, it is. And that's the other hard part with the world. We look at it and we just see the mask of the sanity. We don't see
Hmm.
the mask of insanity that the person's living with.
Yes, absolutely. And they walk among us. They're able to just walk and they're your coworkers. Sometimes they're your pastors, they're your friends, your family. And I think that reality is really hard for people to digest because
Yeah.
then there's a level you want to walk through the world feeling like you trust and know the people that are in your life or that you know the people that are in your community. And so really understanding that maybe that's not always the case is, I think, more scary. And so most people are like, they're opposed to that idea or even accepting that idea so they just think the abusive man or woman is like this big, angry monster that yells at everyone all the time. And that's for these type of coercive controllers, often that is the opposite of how they operate in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say that everybody around my ex loved him.
Yeah, same.
They had no idea that
Mhm.
who he had such a good facade. He played it really well and he liked it. I mean, that was the other part is he enjoyed it. So, he liked being man of the year. And that's how he tend to play that man of the year. Yeah, I think it's shocking. And that you touched on something, Eleni, that really has hit me hard since this is all over with is I no longer assume I know anything about anybody.
Yeah.
I no longer, just because everybody seems very pleasant and easy to be around does not mean that I know one iota what happens behind closed doors
Yep.
in that home. I don't really know.
Yeah. And I think, yeah. And there's a part of me that's like, that's a little sad, isn't it?
It is sad. It's like the naivete or the innocence is gone, and I don't like that it's gone.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I know that I'm safer because I know this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm more so now, I let people show me who they are rather than tell me who they are, and I will be very friendly and cordial up until that point, and then I know to step away because I can't control how other people behave, but I can control my reaction to that person by just stepping away.
Right. Well, this has been a fascinating conversation. How can people find you? I also know that you have a book. I'd love you to tell them about the book, but also where to find you. And then I want to jump over to the podcast extra and talk about if you think that you're in a coercively controlling relationship, what's the first step to sort of check and what should you do next? So we'll talk about that in the second part of this. But so how can people find you, and what about your book?
They can find me on Instagram and TikTok under Now She's Speaking. And then my book is But They're So Nice. And it's a book about covert abuse, coercive control, and narcissistic personalities. And you can find that on Amazon.
I love that. Thank you so much. And thank you for being a voice, educating all of us about this. I really appreciate it.
Thanks,
I really
Mary.
deeply appreciate it.
Likewise.
Well, that's a wrap for this week's episode. Are you following me on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube? You can find me at Kerry McAvoy, PhD. Or you can learn more about me and my resources, such as the Toxic Free Relationship Club, at kerrymcavoyphd.com. And I'll see you back here next week.